Hello and welcome to this very special. We are just a day away from the Auto Expo, but the coverage of Asia's largest automobile show has already started here on CNBC TV 18. We kick off the coverage with the first interview of the SIAM President Vinod Dasari. Thank you very much, Mr. Dasari, for joining us for this special a day before the Auto Expo. Clearly, this affair is taking place under a lot of uncertainty for the auto sector, especially in the context of emissions, in the context of the fact that the government has now announced preponing the BS6 norms by 2020. How important will this show be for the industry, sir?
We are all very excited about it. I mean, this is Asia's largest auto show. There is going to be more new models than any time before, more participants than any time before. Last time we had 5.5 lakh visitors. This year we are expecting 7 lakh visitors. That's as president of SIAM, but as MD of Ashok Leyland, I'm also very excited about showcasing some world-class products that you will see on 3rd.
Well, we've seen an uptick in domestic automobile sales in the recent past. Car volumes have grown for 14 straight months, even though January may not have been a great month, as the numbers yesterday indicated. But clearly there is a general trend that most of the segments are growing, including the commercial vehicle sector, which was, of course, battered some years ago. In that case, would you say that the recovery process that we've seen is well on course now?
Yeah, I believe so. I see passenger car and the other segments didn't fall as much as the commercial vehicle segments. So they fell a little and then they came back, and even their growth is about not as big as the commercial vehicle industry. I think, as you know, Ronojoy, the commercial vehicle industry goes through significant steeps and peaks. So I think this has resulted in making it look like the heavy commercial vehicle is growing faster. But I think the recovery is well on its path as the GDP improves, as the confidence level of people improves, and many new models come out like we are seeing now, and you will see a lot more at Auto Expo. I think there's a lot more exciting times ahead.
But as far as the commercial vehicle segment is concerned, Mr. Dasari, while we have seen a big 20% plus growth month after month, but in terms of the cumulative volumes, it still lags behind what it was a few years ago. So how long do you think it's going to take for volumes to reach the pre-crisis level?
Very good question, Ronojoy. First of all, the previous high for medium and heavy commercial vehicles was about 350,000 vehicles. It fell 2 years in a row and came down to 200,000. Then it grew by 15%. Everybody thought, wow, fantastic growth. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait, this only came up 230,000. There's still a long way to go. So even with a 20% growth this year, which I had said at the beginning of the year that we will see about 20% growth, plus or minus a few percent, we're still a long way to go from the 350,000. We'll probably finish the year somewhere around 280,000, maybe slightly higher. But still, I think there is room to grow even before we reach the previous peak. Now, the previous peak was there 4 or 5 years ago, and since then there is a lot more infrastructure happening, and the more infrastructure happens, the more GDP growth is there. I think we should go past the previous peak. So as far as I'm concerned, unless something tragic happens, barring any unforeseen circumstance, I feel very bullish about the commercial vehicle industry for the next few years.
Let's focus a bit now on the big burning issue for the automobile sector, the government's announcement of rolling out the BS6 norms across the country by 2020 and thereby leapfrogging from BS4 to BS6. You know, the government has announced, but the industry is still sticking to its guns that the technological leap will not be feasible. How does then one break this deadlock between the government on one hand and the industry on the other?
Well, I love the way you put it, that the industry is sticking to its guns. What guns? We will meet whatever regulations are set by the government. India has adopted emission norms faster than any other country in the world. We have a history of doing that. We have been making BS4 vehicles since 2010. If the fuel is not available, the auto industry is not the one at fault. So we will, commercial vehicle industry will achieve BS4 in 2017. Now, world over, in Europe, if you remember, it went from Euro 4 to Euro 5 in 5 years, and Euro 5 to Euro 6 in 6 years. In India, we have been asked now to say from 2017.
Providers have also said that, you know, pushing it to 2020 will be a tall ask for them to upgrade technologically. But can auto companies also work with them to ensure in some way that we can, you know, that the automobiles, the cars, the bikes that will be launched are BS6 compliant by 2020?
It's not just Delphi or Bosch who will do this kind of investment. Much of the work is not outside, much of the work is inside the companies, those who make their own engines. So like I was saying earlier, Ronojoy, that in Europe it took from Euro 4 to Euro 5 it took 5 years, and from Euro 5 to Euro 6 it took 6 to 7 years. In India we are going from Euro 4 to Euro 6 in 3 years, from 2017 to 2020. And to have 2020 to have Euro 6 vehicles, you need to have the fuel available 1 year in advance for trials. Otherwise, how do you try these vehicles? So it is a tremendous technological challenge. We will work on it. I can't guarantee that there will be technology that will be developed so fast. Some companies may, some companies may not. Those who cannot develop the technology will obviously have to shut factories. And to simply say that we will pick up the technology from Europe and cut and paste it here, sorry, it doesn't work. That technology which is there in Europe is not simply transportable to India because we have a different driving cycle.
Well, while we know that the auto industry recently met with the government, but do you feel that somewhere that the government should have consulted the auto industry before announcing the 2020 deadline for BS6?
No, the government had been asking us for quite some time. If you remember, originally it was BS5 2020 and BS6 2025. So between BS4 and BS6 we had about 10 years or so. We proactively offered we will cut it down to half. We will go to BS5 in 2019 and 2023 we will go to BS6 because there is a difference in technology between BS5 and BS6. Then we found out there is no fuel available in 2019. So even if you had the technology, we are already exporting. Even Ashok Leyland, we are exporting Euro 5 vehicles. We are capable. Okay, so we can do that if the fuel is available. So, but in India there is no fuel available till 2020. But then to assume that Euro 5 and Euro 6 technologies are the same just because fuel is available, that to me is wrong. And auto industry is saying, please just give us one roadmap rather than constantly changing the goalposts. And once I meet that thing, nobody should then say suddenly wake up and say, Acha, from tomorrow these vehicles are banned, those vehicles are banned. Those vehicles which are banned in Delhi are meeting the norms set by the government. So why should somebody else ban them then?
Well, while we are talking about a 2020 deadline, sir, but the amicus curiae in the case Harish Salve has in fact asked the industry to bring forward the dates to 2018. I mean, your comments on that?
Let's do Euro 6 from tomorrow, Ronojoy. Why 2018? Is there fuel available? Who are we kidding? I mean, we glibly talk about on these platforms about Euro 6 ko jaldi le aao, we should do it next year, we should do it 2 years later. I'm sorry, I think this is getting to be a joke. People should understand that a Euro 6 vehicle, if you put Euro 4 fuel in it, can actually stop and in the worst case cause a fire. Nowhere in the world it works like this. So, and that 28 to 30,000 crores is for oil companies to invest. It's not the auto companies. Auto companies have to invest on top of it to develop this technology. You know, whatever is happening in Delhi, I don't want to comment on who said what, but I find it quite amusing that if you want to stop pollution, you should stop the most polluting vehicles. Instead of shutting down vehicles which are old, you are shutting down vehicles which meet today's regulations, which is the BS4. You know, in Delhi, IIT Kanpur did a study and it showed that 20% of the pollution is coming from road transport. Within that overall picture of road transport, 15% was coming from cars, which then is 3%, and out of that, 1% is actually diesel vehicles. So you ban the least polluting vehicle and expect things to improve. So what will an average person do? He will buy an older vehicle, drive his older vehicle. So it is counterintuitive to me, because if you shut down the least polluting vehicle, he will drive a more polluting vehicle and thereby hurt pollution even more. So and then I know, I feel that the data, the way it was presented to the Supreme Court, was probably inappropriate. It was mentioned somewhere, I read, that 8 million cars are there in Delhi. That's wrong. That's 5.5 million two-wheelers. Then there are cars and so on. So I think it's to a point where everybody is offering opinion, everybody is saying different things without being properly informed. All I say from the auto industry is, please tell us a roadmap. Tell me when you want to have Euro 5, or tell me when you want to have Euro 6. I have put down saying these are the constraints. Now you don't want to listen to that, you want to say that by this date you must have it, by all means let's have it. One requirement, one and only requirement, have the fuel available. Without the fuel, you can't do anything.
But then would you say that if the OMCs can guarantee availability of fuel by 2020, then will the industry be ready?
We will accept, no problem. I am saying to you, Ronojoy, today the technology doesn't exist to bring it in 3 years. If some companies cannot meet the 2020 deadline, well, they will shut down. That's as simple as that. Everybody else, it's a question of survival, so let them invest and come back.
But sorry to cut you short there, Mr. Dasari, but what you're saying is important. Then you're saying that if 2020 deadline continues and is not changed, then some companies may actually have to shut shop then.
There will be some people who just simply won't have technology available. If this deadline is pushed to, I'm sure industry will work very hard. India's automotive companies are one of the best in the world in times of innovation, and you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention, so maybe Indian engineers will come up with something very unique and we can pull it off in 3 years, who knows. But today, if you ask me, Ronojoy, I don't think the technology exists that can come back in 3 years. So I can't guarantee that all companies in India will be successful in meeting this, and those who can't will have to shut shop. It's as simple as that.
Well, on that note, let's quickly slip into a break. This is a very... Welcome back. The Auto Expo coverage has begun here on CNBC TV 18, and today we are in discussion with Vinod Dasari a day before the Auto Expo gets kick-started. Mr. Dasari, thank you very much once again. We're less than 4 weeks away from the union budget. What are your expectations, and take us through the budget wish list as far as the auto sector is concerned?
No, I think 2 or 3 things we said was, don't have so many different slabs. Reduce the number of slabs, otherwise, you know, if you make the vehicle with this, it is different, with this is different. It's very confusing. And then from the time the vehicle is made to the time a vehicle goes to a customer, there are multiple levels of taxes. Merge them. If possible, reduce it because there is inefficiency. If it's not possible to reduce given the government's requirements for funds, at least make it easier to do business. The last thing, which was my personal pet peeve, was that there is something very, very minor called a national calamity and contingency duty of 0.25% or something. I requested that, look, if you cannot take this off, at least merge it with excise duty or something like that, because the only 2 other industries that are charged with this is alcohol and tobacco. I'm sorry, I take a little bit of an offense that for an industry that generates 30 million jobs and 1/3 of the manufacturing GDP and more than 10% of the country's R&D is clubbed with alcohol and tobacco. So I said, please just change this away.
How does the industry look upon the recommendation that was made, which said that the R&D benefits should be halved in line with the government's announcement to bring down corporate tax rate to 25% from 30% in the next 5 years?
I would say that, in fact, the representations that we have made, if the government actually reduces the R&D benefits, to me, that would be wrong. In fact, at a period when we will do the highest amount of investments in R&D to generate this, meet all of these regulations, in fact, what the industry is asked for is, please give us an accelerated depreciation or an accelerated way of benefit for all this R&D that we'll have to do. If the benefit of R&D is reduced, I think that personally, I think that will be wrong.
Final word then, Mr. Dasari, on the rural sector. We know that over 200 districts have reported drought, and the impact of that is becoming clear in terms of tepid motorcycle volumes and declining tractor volumes. How hopeful are you that the government will announce a special package to revive demand in the rural sector?
I think 3 segments that get picked up by the rural. One is the motorcycle, as you say, the second is the tractor, and the third is a lot of this light commercial vehicles which go off from the city into the rural demand, sometimes come from the rural to city to bring vegetables and commodities from the villages. If something can be done for the rural, forget what it will do to the auto industry. I'd be very happy anything done for the to boost the rural economy, because there is a lot of people in our rural areas who could benefit from it. And I know that they are under tremendous stress because of very unforeseen monsoon was sometimes good, sometimes bad. So any support that the government can give to our farmers and those folks who are living in the rural areas, that would be very much appreciated. Of course, it will have a collateral benefit to the auto companies, but that's a secondary benefit in my mind.
Well, that's all we have time for on this special edition here on CNBC TV 18, a day ahead of the Auto Expo. Stay tuned to our channel for all the news, updates and the big interviews. Thank you so very much for watching.